Hello and welcome to the Girl That Went For It podcast. I'm your host, Johanna Scholz, also known as Johanna Lian on Instagram, and author of Believe in Life, How to Dance in the Rain. If you want to live your dream life and become the best version of yourself, then this podcast is for you. I hope that I can inspire and encourage you to never give up and to always believe in yourself. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, Johanna_Liana, for daily content. And now enjoy this episode. Today, I put my big girl pants on and stepped out of my comfort zone for my business, JLS social media. And oh my gosh, I forgot how good it feels stepping out of your comfort zone. Although I stepped out of my comfort zone a few times this year, I feel like today was like a moment where I was like, yes, this is a new version of me now, and I am expanding my comfort zone. So before I talk about this moment today, I want to talk a little bit more about what is your comfort zone and why is it so scary to step out of our comfort zone. So first of all, comfort zone is a psychological state where you feel safe, it feels familiar, and you feel in control. Maybe you know it from yourself, from your own experience. When you are in your comfort zone, you just feel so safe. And yeah, that's mainly probably also the reason why it is so scary to step out of your comfort zone, because it feels unsafe. Because in our comfort zone, there is no risk, there is no anxiety. So most of the times when we have anxiety, it's because maybe we have a work meeting and we feel really anxious because it is out of our comfort zone, because we can't predict the situation and so on. So our comfort zone includes routines, habits, our environment, situations that feel secure and predictable. Like I said, for example, you have this work meeting and you're really anxious about it because it is out of your comfort zone and you can't predict what's going to happen. Our comfort zone also includes like a routine. So for example, your morning routine, you're waking up at the same time, you have the same breakfast, you stop at the same shop for your coffee. If you buy yourself a coffee, like this is in your comfort zone. It's always the same. The same with habits. You take the same way to work every day, or you take the same bus every day. You know the bus driver, you know the people in the bus, you feel safe. For example, if you decide to take a different bus, it might feel out of your comfort zone, depending on how small or big your comfort zone is. It could be out of your comfort zone taking a different bus because you don't know the bus driver, you don't know the people who are in the bus. Another example, maybe a better one, is a new gym. You decide to go to a different gym, or you decide to go to a different time of the day to the gym. It may feel out of your comfort zone because when you always go to the same time, you might know the people that are going at the same time and you feel safe because you feel those faces look familiar and it just feels safe to you, which kind of leads to the next aspect, which is environment. Like I said, for example, the gym, I feel like it's such a good example because I've done it before, and you guys know, I worked in gyms. I've been a member of a gym since was 16. Back then, I know it was really out of my comfort zone and I would always just go with my friend. I would never go alone to the gym. But even for me, going to a different gym, I remember studying in a different city than I lived. So I would drive into this different city for my studies. Like I did like 5 days uni and then back to work and so on. But I would go to a different gym there. I wouldn't know anyone. I wouldn't know where the machines are that I want to do. So that was a step out of my comfort zone. The new environment, because we don't know anyone, it's not familiar, it doesn't feel safe, although it is so safe. But sometimes we also think everyone is staring at us. But honestly, no one is staring at you. Everyone has their own insecurities, struggles, and everyone probably thinks the same, that you're staring at them or something. You don't even know how many people are, for example, in the gym at that moment who feel the same as you do. So I feel like another fact why we are feeling out of a comfort zone is because we're overthinking. We're overthinking what other people may or may not think. And that's like one of the big reasons why we then stay in our safe comfort zone. Another thing that is our comfort zone is certain situations, so situations that you can control or predict. For example, with your family, you know your family, you know how they react to certain things, you know you can talk about certain things to them, your friends, whereas social gatherings could be out of your comfort zone. So for example, you're going somewhere where you don't know anyone. This actually reminds me that I recently done that. I think I mentioned it in one of my podcast episodes where I talked about October and things I want to do. And I went to this gathering, like a workshop, kind of journaling workshop, so really up my alley. But it was out of my comfort zone because I only knew one person there. And then turned out I actually knew another person that was there. But I wasn't sure what's going to happen. Like I didn't know how many people were there. I had no idea. And it was a step out of my comfort zone. So yeah, if you want to step out of your comfort zone, you could do something like that, like go to a social gathering where you don't know anyone. But I'm going to share some tips later in this episode. I want to share one more thing that I did when I moved to New Zealand, for example. It was it was basically not a step, it was a big as jump out of my comfort zone, because I that was so not in a familiar environment, even though I've been to New Zealand before. But you grow up in this little village, everyone knows you because they know your dad and your mom and your brother and your family and stuff like that. So from coming out of this little village into a new country, a new city, was a big as jump out of my comfort zone. But I actually forgot, because it's 4 years ago, and now I am again, this is my comfort zone now. So I made this now my comfort zone. This new place is my comfort zone now. I sometimes bump into people in the supermarket that I know. So that's like, wow, I created this new reality, this new comfort zone, this new dimension, which is now normal for me. I want to share some more steps out of my comfort zone later in this episode. First of all, I want to talk about why is it so hard to step out of our comfort zone. I already mentioned a few points, but I want to mention eight points, 8 reasons why. So first of all, our comfort zone is our safe place, and our mind wants to keep us safe. That's just what it does. And there's nothing wrong with that. Safe is good. But sometimes we just have to step out of our comfort zone to create this new reality. Like I just said, I created this reality that is my life now, and it used to be a big jump out of my comfort zone, but now it is the new normal. This is what I do daily. So one of the reasons why it's so hard to step out of our comfort zone is because of the fear of the unknown, which means you are faced with unfamiliar situations, people, challenges, and the fear of unknown can be really scary, and it makes it difficult to do the first step because fear is involved, right? Fear is a negative emotion that we try to avoid. So that's why often we stay in our comfort zone, because of the fear of the unknown. And unknown is scary. So we'd rather stay in everything we know, in like things that we can predict, than stepping out. But I tell you one thing. If you never step out of your comfort zone, you never know what's out there and what you're actually capable of. The next reason is, so we have fear of unknown, and the second one is fear of failure. Failure is so important to succeed because we can only learn and grow from it. So if you look at any stars, or I don't know, I don't have a good example right now, but They're probably all failed in the past. And I always have to say here, when you follow someone on social media and you see how they succeed, I just want to remind you that a lot of people don't post their failures. So don't be scared to fail, because we all do. The third reason why it's so hard to step out of our comfort zone is anxiety and discomfort. Stepping out of our comfort zone can bring anxiety, discomfort, and even stress. And that's why so many people don't try new things or take risks, because they have anxiety, because you can't predict what's going to happen. It is discomfort out of our comfort zone. But all I can say here again is, if you never try, you never know. Another reason is lack of confidence. Like, confidence comes from somewhere. Like, you have to build it. It's not given to you. If you had like a childhood where you were from a young girl or boy always really confident and no one told you to not be that loud or don't have an opinion, that's amazing, because you probably are still really confident. But unfortunately, we grow up in a society where sometimes we get told what to think, what to do, what not to think, what not to do, saying no is rude, and all these things. And that might now be the outcome of that. We don't feel confident. We don't feel comfortable in how we show up. And sometimes you have to learn that. And in order to learn or to become more confident, you have to step out of your comfort zone, because in your safe place with your people, with your friends and family, you won't gain, you can still gain confidence, but not the confidence that's waiting out there for you out of your comfort zone. Another reason, and that kind of fits to what I just said, but reason number 5 why it's so hard to step out of your comfort zone is the social pressure. What might others think about you? Maybe others think this is wrong and you shouldn't do this, so that's why you'd rather stay in your comfort zone. It keeps you where you are at right now. And I think this is so sad, because a lot of people stay in their comfort zone because they feel the social pressure, because they feel like they have to do it a certain way. And although they have this big dream of maybe moving to the other side of the world, I can always just speak from my experience and give an example of what I did. You don't have to obviously compare whatever it is you want to do with me, but maybe it can give you an idea. But if I had listened to people telling me, are you really sure you want to move to the other side of the world, and isn't it scary, and what about your parents? You'd be the only one to look after them, and so on and so forth. Of course, I care about my parents and I do anything for them, but I also had to put my dreams first, and having an open conversation with my parents about this was so helpful. But what I want to say here is really try to switch off, or don't let those comments from the outside get to you. If this is your desire, your dream, it is your life in the end, okay? So don't let social pressure stop you from stepping out of your comfort zone. Reason number 6 is habitual behavior. So like I said in the start, our comfort zone is our routine, our habits, and sometimes it's so hard to step out of a habit. Like habits, we have habits for such a long time, and that's also why it's so hard to build a new habit, because our mind is so focused on what we do daily, and that's why it's so hard sometimes to change things in your routine. But again, if you never try, you never know. So what I can really recommend is to do habit stacking. So you still have your old habits and stack new habits into your old habits, and that will get you a little bit out of your comfort zone. There is this book, what is it called again? Atomic Habits, which is all about habits, like the title says itself. But it's really good to learn how to implement new habits. Reason number 7 is risks and overthinking. And I think I mentioned that before, that one of the main reasons why we don't step out of our comfort zone is because we overthink situations. We overthink, what if this happens? And then we stay in our cute little safe place. But if we always overthink what other people think, all the things that may happen or may not happen or whatever, we don't get anywhere, okay? So stop overthinking. I know it's easier said than done, but that's like one of the main reasons why we stay in our small little bubble, because we overthink scenarios that will never ever happen anyway. And last but not least, reason number 8 why it's so hard to step out of our comfort zone is our perceived limitations. Like, we literally believe that we have limitations and we can't do something. We literally tell ourselves, oh, I'm not the person that does this or that, or who am I to start my own business, or who am I to move to a different city, or who am I to succeed? Like, we tell ourselves all these limitations. No, I can't do this because of that. And honestly, that's bullshit, if I can just say this out loud here, because there are no limits. Stop telling yourself you can't do something because of XYZ. Stop looking for excuses and start looking for ways and reasons why you can. All right, so now back to me and this big step out of my comfort zone today, or actually also I'm going to list a few that I did over the past year. Maybe the biggest one was 4 years ago, moving, like I said in the start, moving to a different country. That was like such a jump out of my comfort zone and is now my reality. Another thing, or another step out of my comfort zone in the last 2 years was definitely starting my own business, because that was a risk that I took. And as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to step out of your comfort zone, because we think about the risks and we let the risks keep us in our safe place. But I knew that this reality was possible for me. I could see it for myself. I'm just a person. I've been kind of working for myself for such a long time, since I'm 18, because I started this whole social media thing and worked with brands. So that kind of happened naturally, that I started working for myself. I mean, I was still full-time working and studying and stuff like that. So I was at this crossroad 2 years ago where I could decide, am I gonna keep my job or am I gonna go out on my own? I actually had a lot of conversations with my partner, fiance, I can say now, and with friends, and actually with a client that I had back then, and she really pushed me, and she was like, girl, you better go out there on your own and do your thing. And that was just the little push I needed. And sometimes we need this from friends that we trust, or even like, this was a client that literally told me. So yeah, that was a step out of my comfort zone. Earlier this year, one other step out of my comfort zone was starting this podcast, but actually it didn't really feel like a step out of my comfort zone. Of course, it was something new. And if you go back and listen to my first episodes, they're probably, I wouldn't say not as good as my ones now, but just a bit different. Also, my episodes were just like 5 or 10 minutes back then, and now I can just keep on talking to you guys. But yeah, so that was a little step out of my comfort zone. I would say a bigger step out of my comfort zone was offering Zoom calls or like coachings, because I mean, I connect with my audience on Instagram. I do Instagram stories. I text with you on Instagram. So offering a coaching was something I always wanted to do. I mean, I started offering Mind and Vision, which is an online course, so you can sign up and watch it. That kind of was a little step out of my comfort zone, but I think the live coaching was a bigger step, because I didn't really think about it when I was doing it, and I was so excited for it. But then actually doing the call, I mean, I'm just really transparent with you here, doing the live calls and having my students, or like you guys who signed up for the coaching, on the other end, but a lot of them had their cameras off, which is fine, which I also say you can turn your cameras off if you feel more comfortable doing this, like totally fine. But I think a step out of my comfort zone was not knowing the reactions of the people that I talked to because I didn't see them, which is fine. Like it was still an amazing course and I absolutely loved it. And I think also what I could see, because it was a 4-week course, the Aligned Life Mastery, the first call, I think a few had their cameras off. The second call, more had their cameras on. And then the third call, I had more interactions, more messages in the chat while I was doing the call. So also for them, I understood this was a step out of their comfort zone, joining a group coaching and making themselves vulnerable. And I'm so glad I created a safe place and I could see their growth over the 4 weeks, how they warmed up and started interacting in the group chat, or like in the chat when you do the Zoom, or just even messaging me while I was doing the Zoom so I can share what they messaged me and share it in the group. So yeah, that was really cool. And I think something that I learned on the way, especially with coachings, like the people that come into my coaching, that's so new for them too. And I want to talk about this later a little bit more. Like that's the step out of their comfort zone as well. So yeah, that was really cool to see the growth. And I felt like after those 4 weeks, even after the first call, I felt so comfortable doing it. But I didn't think of this before because I always say I try to stop overthinking and focus on the best case scenario, not on the worst case scenario. So I didn't think too much about it before I started the call. But then actually while I was doing the call, it was a step out of my comfort zone because I couldn't see the people that were in the call. But again, that changed after some time because they started to get out of their comfort zone and turn their cameras on. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to share. Another step out of my comfort zone that I mentioned earlier was I went to this workshop. I didn't know anyone there. I only knew the person that was offering the workshop. So I didn't know how many people will be there. What am I going to walk into? Do they know each other? So it was kind of, it was out of my comfort zone, but it felt so good and it was so cool to connect with like-minded people. So yeah. And now let's talk about today's step out of my comfort zone, which actually inspired me to do this episode. So there is this new business opening in Hawke's Bay and I'm a social media coach and manager. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to introduce myself and ask them if they need help with their social media. I usually text businesses on Instagram through my Instagram page, or I email them. And today I was like, you know what? I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm around the corner anyway. I'm just going to walk in, put my big girl pants on and have a little chat and hand in my card, my business card, because I know I'm good in what I'm doing. And I know that social media is such a great tool to get your business out there. And with that in my mind, I know that what I offer is value. Nothing can go wrong, right? So I walked in, had a really lovely conversation. I didn't even overthink the conversation too much before because that probably would have stopped me from walking in. Because if I thought about, what if this person is nasty, or what if this person is, I don't know, rude or whatever, if I would have thought that, I probably hadn't walked in. This is like grammar wrong, but you know what I mean? So I didn't even overthink that. What I thought was I'm going to have a good conversation. I have nothing to lose. I can introduce myself, leave my card. So yeah, that's what I did. I walked in, had a lovely conversation, left my card there. Definitely will go back because it's a really cool space, whatever you call it. And I got nothing to lose. They either will reach out to me or not. I did what I could. I introduced myself, started following them on Instagram, and we'll see. So yeah, and you know what I thought once I did that? I was like, this is a new, a new reality unlocked. Like, how easy was that? I just walked in, introduced myself, left my card, and that was it. And I was just in my head like, that was just so easy. And I'm probably going to do it again because I forgot how good it feels to step out of your comfort zone. Because I feel like the last steps out of my comfort zone were always like little steps, so it didn't feel that big. So this one was a bit big. Although I obviously talked about my business in the past and handed in or gave my cards to someone. Actually, on this gathering that I went to, I had some business cards that I handed out, which was quite good because I never really think about that, like giving my business cards to someone, because I feel like the cool thing is with Jealous social media, it grew by itself and then people recommend you, and I'm just really grateful for that. But yeah, I saw this new business and I was like, I actually really want to do their social media. So I just went there and I just said like, hey, if you need help, I'm your girl. So yeah, so to sum this episode up, I want to share 3 tips with you to step out of your comfort zone. So the first one is, instead of thinking of the worst case scenario, start thinking of the best case scenario. Like I explained just before, like I could have thought about the worst thing that could happen, like that the people are really rude, or about the social gathering that I went to. I could have thought about the worst case scenario and didn't go, or whatever it is. Like whatever it is that you want to do out of your comfort zone, stop thinking about the worst case scenario and start thinking about all the best case scenarios. Like, you're meeting wonderful people, you have great conversations, you're going to feel so good. Like, think about all the best case scenarios. The second tip that I want to give you is to do small steps at a time. For example, if something on your out of your comfort zone list is to go to, like I did, go to this workshop, a little step would be to sign up for an online coaching first, so you're still in your safe environment at home, but you can join this new environment online with like-minded people in a coaching call. So that would be like a small step. And then the next step could be, when you are in this online coaching group call, to start a conversation, to maybe unmute yourself, depending on what kind of coaching call it is, to use the chat and connect with people. So that could be like a small step out of your comfort zone, which is probably less scary than going to a workshop and opening up there and meeting people in person. And last but not least, tip number 3 is embrace the discomfort. It's the natural path of growth. Like, we can only grow if we step out of your comfort zone. And I want you to picture your comfort zone like this ring around you, or like this ball. I don't even know how to, maybe like a circle around you. And every time you step out of your comfort zone, you make the radius a bit bigger and bigger. And it becomes your new normal, your new comfort zone. Like, every time you step out of your comfort zone, that's your new comfort zone. And it will feel so good after some time. So like I just said, the more you do something, like say me introducing myself to new businesses, handing in my card, the more I do it, the easier it will get. It's actually the same as when I worked in the gym and I had to do assessments with new gym clients. And I remember it was such a big step out of my comfort zone. I've done it heaps in Germany and then moved to New Zealand and had to do it in English. It was a big step out of my comfort zone, but I knew I could only get better the more I do it. I could only get better doing these assessments and learning the vocabulary that I didn't know yet. Like some of the things we did, I don't know, like using the scale and measuring. I don't know, I can't even remember. But there were some words that I didn't know, and I knew that only the more I do it, the more I will learn, the more vocabulary I will learn, like whatever it is, you know. I'm just trying to tell you that you can only grow through stepping out of your comfort zone. So yeah, I hope this episode helped you. I feel like this was such a, all of my episodes are always, I just feel so good afterwards telling or sharing this with you. So I hope this helped you too. And feel free to share this with a friend who needs a little reminder to step out of their comfort zone. And I would really appreciate if you give this episode a feedback, or the stars, or however you call it. As you know, I'm really new to this whole podcast thing. So I think if you're listening at Spotify, you can put like stars in the show or something. And also, what also helps me is when you save this episode or download episodes, because that will show the algorithm that you like what I share with you. So yeah, hope you have an amazing day.